tonight.
Paxton's journey of accountability doesn't end with this Senate trial.
Facing possible removal from office, felony charges, and a state bar investigation. How suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton's impeachment trial could affect his other legal troubles. Plus, could the U.S. deploy troops into Mexico?
It's an effective domestic political strategy. Is it an effective strategy to get rid of fentanyl? No.
Why some Republicans are embracing a potential act of military intervention across the southern border. And later, a complicated campaign calendar, the crowded legal timeline Donald Trump faces as he runs for president. Capitol Tonight starts right now. Thanks for joining us here on Capitol Tonight. I'm Karina Kling. We are officially 1 week out from the start of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton's impeachment trial. It'll all take place in the Texas Senate chamber, which has been transformed into a courtroom-like setting. Senators will serve as jurors, and they met behind closed doors today at the Capitol. One senator told us they reviewed the rules for the trial, but no votes were taken. Paxton wants them to dismiss the articles of impeachment against him, which include abuse of office and bribery. Paxton also faces a list of other legal troubles, and experts say what happens in the Senate trial could affect his other cases. Charlotte Scott reports.
Thank you.
When suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton was elected to his third term last year, he was already in legal trouble. He was indicted on securities fraud charges in 2015, which is a first-degree felony punishable by up to 99 years in prison. Paxton pleaded not guilty, but has so far avoided trial.
I think that the securities fraud judge will want to move the case along, given the ability to do so. I mean, it's been sitting around forever on all these procedural matters.
Paxton will be back in court for a hearing in his securities fraud case in October, after the impeachment trial is over. A majority of Texas House Republicans voted to impeach Paxton in May. He's accused of obstruction of justice, bribery, and abuse of office. Experts say what's revealed in his upcoming Senate trial could impact the outcome of his criminal one. One Dallas-based appellate lawyer says if Paxton is called to the stand and pleads the Fifth or declines to provide incriminating testimony, it doesn't look good in the impeachment trial. But if he testifies, then he could give the prosecutors in the criminal case a lot to work with.
You can be sure that every word Mr. Paxton says, if he takes the stand, is going to be, very carefully sent through their database of every other fact they have in the case for any conceivable inconsistency.
The FBI is also looking into alleged corruption that was revealed in a whistleblower lawsuit, which sparked the House investigation into Paxton and ultimately led to his impeachment. Those investigators could also use the evidence from the Senate trial to make their case.
It'll go straight from the transcript in the state House to whoever it is that's looking at it in the FBI's office. There's no question about that.
House impeachment lawyers have released thousands of pages of evidence against Paxton, and one watchdog group suggests more incriminating information could come out on the Senate floor.
It's entirely possible that one of the Senate's findings might be that there are other crimes that Paxton potentially committed, and those crimes could easily be recommended for prosecution.
The State Bar of Texas also sued Paxton for allegedly trying to challenge the results of the 2020 election. For Capitol Tonight, I'm Charlotte Scott.
Let's bring in our political analyst now to discuss Paxton's trial further. Joining us this evening, Democrat and director of the Lone Star Project, Matt Engel, and Republican analyst Brendan Steinhauser. Matt, Brendan, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Brendan, I'll start with you. I mean, there's a lot of political pressure from outside groups being put on Republican senators to toss the articles of impeachment. How do you think that's affecting them?
Yeah, I think it's definitely affecting them. They're getting a lot of phone calls and emails from grassroots activists, from organizations that are very focused on this. And anytime a state senator is getting that kind of communication outside of a normal legislative session, they're paying attention. Those phones are probably ringing off the hook. So they're taking that into consideration, and they do think about the political ramifications of their decisions. Yes, they're there to try and do their constitutional duty to the best of their ability, but it has to weigh on them when they're getting so many phone calls. That has to be a part of the calculus here.
It takes a simple majority on day one to be able to toss any of the articles of impeachment. Matt, I mean, how do you think this does play out on day one?
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of theater, and I think a lot of it is going to be just try to set up and create a circumstance in which people really can't anticipate what's going to happen. I believe that you will find out pretty early, though, whether or not there's critical mass of Republicans that are willing to remove Paxton. And it wouldn't surprise me if they even move to do some things very, very early on that might truncate the process. If the votes are there to unload him, then they might try to get that done quickly, I would think.
Yeah. Brendan, what do you think are the chances, if all this moves forward, that Paxton actually testifies?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's pretty dangerous for him to do so, as your earlier guest said. I mean, I think everything that he says will be scrutinized. It'll be a part of those other cases. And so he'd have to be very, very careful to do that, to put himself in that position. So I'm gonna bet on the side that he probably won't testify. I could be wrong about that, but I just think the risk there probably outweighs the reward for him in that situation.
Yeah, and I think, we're looking to see kind of if he is forced to testify, then he could obviously plead the fifth. I mean, Matt, your takeaway on whether he is forced to, and if he does plead the fifth, and kind of what we were hearing in Charlotte's story, just of what that could mean and look like for Paxton in this trial and other cases.
Well, he's got to be very worried about that. I mean, we're all thinking about, well, he's worried about losing his office. He's more worried, I'm sure, about losing his freedom. If he says something that ends up resulting in a jail sentence, he's still got federal indictments hanging over his head. He's got state prosecution on the fraud charges, and he probably will lose his law license. So my guess is he will do everything possible to avoid having to testify. And if he does, I think that he would plead the fifth before he would give information that would really benefit the feds more than what they already have from the public record.
Brendan, we've seen kind of the leaked list of these witnesses, and I mean, what more do you think we could learn from them throughout this trial, and just the pressure that could potentially be placed on them too?
Yeah, well, I think anytime you have a situation like this, when you have witnesses come forward, you kind of get to see the human side of the case, right? So you might have all read various facts and read different, accounts of what happened or allegedly happened. But when you have witnesses come up, then it becomes about, are they credible? It becomes about, do their facts line up with other facts from other witnesses? You start to really put the human level into that. And so you'll probably see the Paxton team raise questions about that credibility, right? That'll be part of their strategy in addition to the veracity of the facts. But yeah, when you have witnesses who are public, the other thing to consider is, are these folks that get pressure from one side or the other? Are these, now that they are known, their names are known, it's not that difficult in today's age to find them on social media, to even find information about where they live or work. And so, we have to be thinking about making sure that witnesses are protected so they can go and do their duty, which is to tell the truth as they see it.
Matt, real quickly, we've got about 30 seconds left. Your takeaway on just the witnesses that could be called?
Well, I think it's extraordinary because the witnesses are going to be called, and the people that are raising the charges against Paxton are all Republicans. They're, in some cases, they're loyal state employees who are also loyal Republicans. And so he's got an extraordinary circumstance to deal with. This isn't a political attack from Democrats or people on the outside. These are people very close to him who are raising these charges. And so I think attacks on them could end up backfiring on him and make it really even worse for him, in both in legal terms and political terms.
Matt Engel, Brendan Steinhauser, thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more refreshing stories about your community, click the subscribe button over here. You can also download our Spectrum News app and tune in to Channel 55 on Dish and DirecTV to get live news coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.